Your council meeting for Tuesday, September.
Mute yourself. No, you're not.
Lord. Are there any disclosure that you think?
No, sir. No, sir.
It's only showing me and George.
Recording in progress.
There.
So,
Yep. He's, yep. Oh. No, you're good.
Okay. Solve the technical problem or apologies, so we continue on with the adoption of the agenda, but before I ask to move our seconder, we need the council's approval to add under item 13.4 an additional bylaw in regards to site plan agreement. Is there any problems or concerns with adding that to our agenda? Seeing no concerns, I need a mover and seconder for the adoption of the agenda. Deputy Mayor Anderson, Councilor Jacob, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Very pleasurable evening for myself and the council here this evening. We have a number of our fire staff and also our recreation director who are here to receive long-term service awards and completion of certificates for playground inspection. Before I get to that, I just want to say to the firefighters and staff members, I think of the Nat Bayside Fire Department. I have nothing but pride and respect. I fully believe that you folks are the best fire department in the area. We couldn't ask any more of you folks for our residents. I'm proud to have you folks here this evening. Hope that we can move forward with recognizing not only long-term service, but also recognizing all of the volunteers and fire staff in the McNabb Bayside for the tremendous service that they provide for this community. Having said that, move to the first recipient this evening. And I'm going to move up to the front area, and we have some plaques and stuff like this. Chief Director to the plaques as we go down the list. So first recipient this evening is Kevin Nicholson. Kevin's been the very valuable member of Kevin, we have another 20 years left. So,
To be super important, to do that.
Oh, wait. Chief wants one too.
hang on.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
Will you?
Yeah.
Thank you. A very reasonable price. All these structures will be on our Facebook and on our website.
There you go.
So next is Andy Holmes, from the state award for 25 years of service. Thanks so much. Next is, let's see if I would. No, and that's your favorite person for the last. Hey, what can I say? 25 years, service and we blew it. We didn't get to your award. You know, we had to wait for another 5 years, for 30 years, and we're still here. I hope you're gonna stick with us for many more years to come. Thanks so much, Dave. Once again. Jump over this. Chief Dave Harvick. One of the last things that the township of the South Bayside has done. I wish it had been me. Given what Dave as our chief made a great choice. He's done a great job for us. Guidance, let's say, nothing but pride for the folks. So what can I say about the next recipient? Go back many, many years to the point where I think he's almost now over 9. Perhaps, maybe, I don't know when retirement is for firefighters. I looked at the game, I guess. And so you said you up in the 80s. It's, no, it's pretty good that it's an accurate show. We had to put the horse down, no? Well, my friend, 45 years of service. That even makes you old. It does. You started there. No, I remember. Nothing wrong with the end all that so much. You've almost been a first player long that I've been on years.
I was just waiting to see who was gonna say that.
We also have staff member receiving a certificate here this evening. Our recreation director, Jeff Patterson. Want that, please? Jeff is receiving his Canadian Parks and Recreation Association certified as a step pilots and successfully completed an permit to be a Canadian certified playground inspector. A lot of people would kind of look at that thing on the playground. It's very serious. This is a very important role because we have to make sure that our residents and children are using those playgrounds and everything, look after safe. So it's Jeff's job and how it's certified to make sure that the playgrounds in the methods remains safe for all residents. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, John. Thank you all for coming and should you appreciate your service.
What's that? You just have to watch this one.
Okay.
The next on our list is here this evening.
I'm just trying to see. Yep.
I think I'm now unmuted.
You are.
Good.
Excellent. Now, are you wanting me to present by sharing my screen?
If you'd like to, or I can do it for you. What would you prefer?
It's probably easier if I do it.
Okay. You should be able to now.
Want me to try again?
Did it not work for you?
No, I'm still getting a message that says host disabled participant screen sharing. I think you have to allow me to do something.
He's the co-host right now.
The three dots, there should be, oh, the three dots at the bottom of
How about now?
Yes,
All right.
we've got it. There we go. I assume you're now seeing that.
We are,
Yes.
yeah.
Excellent. So thanks very much for having me. Sorry about the little confusion getting going here. And thanks generally for a lot of stuff over a lot of years now. It's been more than a quarter of a century that you've been involved with us and supporting us, and we're very much aware of that. We're now a pretty good little professionally led archive. We're a $50,000 a year operation. We've got lots of volunteers. We are consistently able to get federal project grants for things like digitization and special exhibits. We do the sort of exhibits that make our local history accessible. We serve people handling research requests, whether they're by email or phone or by walk-in. We have 1,200 at the moment Facebook followers. We've got lots of web users, and significantly, they are, for the very large part, Canadian, and we think, although Google can't tell us this for sure, that they're mostly quite local. That $50,000 a year operation is, as you can quickly see from this, 90% funded by the 2 municipalities. And about 10% of our funding is earned or donated or is the small automatic provincial grant. Our money gets spent almost entirely on people. More than half of it goes just on the 3 days a week that we currently have of archivist services. We've had a pretty good year in 2021. We were never shut down. We were sometimes not open to the public for walk-ins, but we were in operation all the time. And that's even though we lost our archivist, Emma Carey, in March and had to conduct a recruitment exercise and now have another terrific young archivist. So there was a gap in between as Lori Dougherty, our former archivist, came back. So we had two transitions and we got through them all. The volunteers are getting more active again in the archives as they're able to actually be on the premises. We're doing another digitization project this year that will make a lot more newspapers available to people. The board is hard at work on redoing our strategic plan. And we were very proud this year to get the institutional award from the Ontario Association of Archives. And thanks very much, Mayor Tom, for your kind words on the occasion of that award. We much appreciated that. It's not all exactly clear sailing, though. We have some challenges, really major challenges, to be quite frank with you. And these two that I'm showing you are very closely related. We're now on our third archivist in less than 4 years, to be honest. And that's an enormous drain on everything and everybody. And in fact, this year we've been able to sort of cost it out. And because of the need to provide overlaps for the transitions and so on, it's actually boosted our cost of archivist services fairly considerably. And the reason for the turnover is very simple. We can only provide 21 hours of work a week. And young archivists come in all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and appreciating the challenge, but they soon find that it's really tough going. And when Emma left us, she went to a full-time job. The other consequence of only having 21 hours of archivist a week is that our backlog is growing and has been for a while and will continue unless we do something. We have another much less serious challenge, but it's a real one, and I wanted to mention it. And that's that we've outgrown the premises that the town of Arnprior provides us rent and light and heat free. And so we're now using offsite storage at the Kenwood Center. That costs, and the cost of that has been going up fairly sharply since we started using it only last year. So we really have to respond to this. How we got here, though, I think is worth mentioning. It's kind of like the situation 10 years ago, except then it was only 2 days a week of archivist, and the backlog was growing. But then we got part of a major estate bequest in 2012, and the board started using that to pay for 2 extra days a week of archivist services. And for a while there, in what we now think of as the golden age, the backlog actually got smaller. But of course, so did the bequest fairly quickly. So by 2015, the board had to cut that back to 3 days a week, 1 paid from the bequest, 2 by the municipalities. And the thinking was that that should at least stabilize things. The request finally did run out, and thank you very much to you folks and to Arn Prior for stepping up over the 2 years of 18-19 and coming up with a 3rd day of archivist services that you're supporting. So that's where we are now. We've got 3 days a week of archivist services. We have a turnover problem and the backlog is growing. So what to do? We got to respond to our change in business. And the biggest change in our business, as you can see here, and I just point out, this isn't pandemic related. This chart cuts off in 2019, just to avoid that confusion. There was a big drop in the blue column here, which is walk-in researchers or inquirers. And the thing about walk-ins is that they are handled essentially 100% by volunteers. The archivist isn't involved with them, and they don't take up any of that precious time. That number dropped very sharply about the time things like Ancestry became easily available online, and we lost all the people who just wanted to look for their grandparents' wedding notice in the old papers. And over time, though, the other kinds of inquiries, the ones that come in by internet mostly, but by phone, some from Facebook, those get handled by the archivist. And that's about doubled since 2015. That's one of the things that's happened. It's also meant that there's now a lot less demand on this thing that the volunteers have been trained and organized to do. So there's a need to do a lot of retraining and reorganizing of volunteers, and to guess as to whose job that is. When we get these project grants, one of the things that the federal funder always expects is that we make a contribution, and almost always that contribution is in archivist time. So it's great that we get, say, $25,000 to do a digitization, but we are contributing precious archivist time to that. As we do digitizations, we end up with a collection that has 2 copies of a lot of things, and now the archivist has to keep track of it, organize that. There is an increasing amount of website management. We've recently had very significant transfers of municipal records, as I know you know. And since we have the location in the Kenwood Center and it has to be monitored for temperature, humidity, all the things that might threaten stuff in a collection, it means that the archivist has to spend at least some of those 21 hours going over and being over at the Kenwood Center and doing that monitoring. So we've got a couple of possible responses to this. Neither of them is cheap. The optimum response would be to go to 5 days a week with an archivist. It would make the archivist available to the public in a way that other kind of community/municipal services typically are. It would certainly let us get eating into the backlog. It would cost about $20,000 a year in current dollars for next year. The 4-day-a-week version of that, which we think will still help us a lot with our turnover problem, will certainly give some increase in public access with the 4th day, and it will probably at the very worst stabilize the backlog. And that is not surprisingly about $10,000. There are a couple of other things that we have to cover, though. One of them is that the offsite storage at Kenwood will be going up by about $500 next year. We have general cost increases across the budget, all of them very small, but they add up to about $500. And there's also the fact that last year, in the midst of the pandemic and the uncertainty about all of that, we came forward with a budget request that basically asked for no increase, but it had essentially $1,000 deficit built into it. And if we're going to begin to move forward, we've got to get over that. So you put those together, and really it comes down to, for $22,000 more for us, there can be a 5-day-a-week archivist, and we can cover those things. For $12,000, it's the same package of other stuff and 4 days a week of archivist. That's what we're asking. We want to go to 4 days a week to help with the retention, with the backlog and everything else. And we will need $12,000 a year, an increased funding to do that. And we're asking you to give us half of that increase. This table is very like one that you saw last year, and it simply shows how a lot of the budget stuff breaks down, but it embodies that same request for an increase. That's kind of it for the money. I do want to ask a little bit more though, and that is if we can be a little more closely linked, if from your website to ours, so that people who are curious about historic bylaws and township minutes and things can find them more easily. We need to get ready on both ends for the eventual electronic records transfers of the future. And there must be some ways that we can help you with the upcoming bicentennial celebrations in 2025. And we'd be very, very interested in finding out how we might do that. So I will leave you with that and be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Brian. A lot of information there. Put out to council if there's any questions or comments. Mr. Jacob.
So I just have one question, and hopefully you can hear me. So I just wanted to confirm, if council were to elect during the budget cycle to approve the increase to 5 days a week, the share from McNabb Braeside would actually be 11,000 of that full 22,000, correct?
That's correct. Yes. Yes, that we're asking that the increase in either case be evenly split between the two municipalities.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor
I just wanted to know, Brian, has there been any thought of bringing in students to assist with this as some sort of a co-op program?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch your question.
I just wanted to know if there's been any thought to bringing in students to assist with this as some kind of a volunteer program or some co-op type style program that they could put towards their education and then future job prospects.
We do that. We do a fair amount of that, but it's always a very tough trade-off between whether having a student in will free up archivist time or will actually eat up archivist time. And depending on what else is going on, we have done more or less of that. Last year, we employed Ella Hartwick, who had started out with us as a volunteer, but who came through the Young Canada Works program as a university student. She worked full time on pre-processing the transfer of the McNabb Braeside Township records for several months.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation, Brian. This will be brought forward to McNabb Brayside's budget meetings, which the staff is starting to work on later this month and into October. We brought to council in November for decisions, and certainly be on our list of things to look at for our 2022 budget. So thanks very much for your time this evening, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much for hearing us.
The next delegation we have is Mary and Milmore from the Our Physician Improvement Committee, with their presentation. You there, Mary?
Hi there.
Hello.
Am I unmuted now?
We can hear you.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Did you guys want to go, do you want to share our slideshow, or did you want,
You can share it. I just gave you permission to do so.
okay, perfect. And so, right. So, why do we need a physician recruitment committee? We have greater success in recruiting when many community stakeholders take part. Physicians, residents, businesses, municipalities, and hospitals. It's not the responsibility of ARH, and it's also not the responsibility of the Ministry of Health to recruit for communities in our area. It's actually the community's responsibility. Without a community, without a committee, our community is not represented among the many other communities that are looking for doctors. We need to support new physicians coming to Armpire to ensure they're comfortable and have what they need to be successful. Other communities are supporting their physicians, and we need to do the same to remain competitive. We need to also retain our existing physicians, make sure that our physicians feel valued for the work they do and all the sacrifices they make, especially with the pandemic. Everybody's working quite hard. It's also a very long recruitment cycle. It takes a few years to actually recruit a physician. And we're a growing community, and our needs will only increase over time. We have to ensure that local care needs will continue to be met, and residents have increased access to primary care and ER coverage. This is a collaborative effort. So our membership right now is Mark Nyberg, he's the chair, Councillor Scott Brum, ARH CEO Eric Hanna, the lead physician, Dr. Garcia, the FIT executive director is Karen Simpson. Kathy Brennan is a community member, Sharon Hike as well. Samantha Boyavong is a pharmacist. We have a new member, Robert Dodge, and Lindsay Wilson with the town of Armpire. We also have a new member who hasn't attended yet, but we work to ensure that all residents have access to a local physician. We would not be successful without generous funding and support of the Township of McNabb-Braeside. We'd also like to thank Scott Brum for his ongoing support as a member of this committee. We'd like to recognize Scott for his time attending student resident lunches to help sell the community, as well as attending our PRC meetings. Let's talk about what we did this year. So we attended our first virtual career fair with the University of Ottawa. We're planning to do a virtual fundraiser with some restaurants in the community. It was slower in the last little while because of the pandemic, but we did have 3 resident physicians come and we met them virtually. It was great. It was great. We're now seeing that uptick again, that we're seeing more residents coming through and medical students. We're hoping for the return of Community Week next year, where medical students come and they get to experience what it's like to practice in Arnprior and the community, and as well as just experience McNabb, Braeside, Arnprior, the whole thing. We welcomed one family physician, so Dr. Fannin took over for Dr. Morrison. And Dr. Morrison retired, so her practice was split between Dr. Ridgen, Padiano, and Dr. Fannin. Again, we had 3 residents. We attended the career fair. Dr. Garcia was present. I do have to say that hats off to Ottawa U, because they did run into some technical issues. We had 300 medical students that were participating in it, and not quite sure how many physician recruitment committees, but it was a challenge, and they really did a good job in kind of pivoting and being able to everybody to have an opportunity to reach out to them. So we're currently under budget or on budget in all areas. Our financial goal for the new platform of the Doctor's Dining Dual fundraiser will be $10,000. Our budget allows for hiring 1 additional physician with a total of $50,000 for 2022. This will include the recruitment coordinator role, attendance at 3 recruiting events, the continuation of student lunches, and support to hire 1 additional physician minimum, and then attend the Canadian Association of Physician Staff Recruiters. So again, our request is the same as in past years. With the Grove redevelopment, this space has been filled up with new physicians who have taken over practices of retired physician. Dr. Megan Fannin and Dr. Julie Ridgen and Dr. Florence Padiano have all taken on patients from Dr. Morrison. Dr. Ridgen and Padiano did fill up some of their roster with community, and Dr. Megan Fannin is going to begin her roster build after they move to the Grove. There are no pending retirements at the moment. We have a large number of physicians who are getting close to retirement, 2 of whom have announced their interest to retire in the next 2 to 3 years. With a long recruiting cycle, it's important to keep up our recruitment efforts now to ensure we are able to transition their patients to new doctors. Many of the physicians who are close to retirement have large practices that will not be able to be a 1-to-1 ratio split with a new physician starting a practice. It's more likely to be a 1-to-2 practice split, meaning 2 physicians will have to split a current physician's roster. This means that the PRC will have to work hard at recruiting multiple physicians to replace 1 retiring physicians. And that is it. If you have any questions.
I have just one quick question. An approximate number of people in the catchment area of ARH that do not have a physician?
What is the approximate number of people who don't have a physician? Is that what your question is?
Yes.
So the family health team wait list, the last time I checked the numbers, was sitting at 1,200. So that's another complete roster.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Thanks very much for your information, Mary, and that this will come forward to our 2022 budget deliberations later in the fall, and we'll certainly get back to you and let you know where the township stands. So thanks very much for the information, and have a good evening.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good night.
Mhm.
We're on to item 6, the adoption of previous council meetings. Mover and seconder 6.1, the August 10th public meeting. Deputy Mayor Ernst, Councilor Brew. Questions or comments on the minutes? All in favor is presented. Carried. 6.2, August 17th special council meeting. Mover and seconder, Councilor Brew. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All in favor as presented. Carried. Thank you. The August 17th regular council meeting. Moved by Councilor Jacobs, seconded by Deputy Mayor Ramsey. Comments? Comments? None. All in favor as presented. Carried. Thank you. Reports of committee, the council and other boards, 7.1 bylaw enforcement report. Moved and seconded, please. Councilor Brew, Councilor Jacobs. Questions or comments on this report? None. All in favor of receiving this information? Carried. Thank you. Information items, correspondence, 8.1. Items 1 through 5. Mover and seconder. All 5. Any comments on 1 through 5? I'd just like to make a mention about item 2, the registered food bank. Thank Councilor Lang for her efforts in getting the vegetables and everything up and growing and Clean Bank Park, and doing a great job there and providing food, fresh food for the food bank. So I wanted to mention that. The item 5, the moving of the maintenance control yard, and I did send an email to the consultant. At that time, I didn't know that they already, the province already owned property in the area of the cattle being new overpass soon, so I'm hoping that they will select one of the 2 locations that they have there. The site for the maintenance. Anything else on 8.1? No, better receiving this information. Very thank you. 8.2, historical society of Ottawa. Speaker series, and second, please. Councilor Brew, questions, comments on this one? All in favor of receiving this information? Very thank you. 8.3, health announces appointment of chief regional officer. Moved by questions or comments? Receiving this information? Very thank you. 8.4, Kathy Jordan, announcing the airport directors, lead of act as president, CEO of Untitled Regional Health. Very Mover and second, Deputy Mayor Evans, Councilor Bloom, comments? Councilor Jacob?
I'm very excited to welcome Leah back to RH. She has served as the chief nursing executive and VP of patient care when she went to QCH. So it's very nice to welcome her back to the RH family and to know that there's someone who has the local perspective and knows the local area. That's going to be some of that role of bringing that community voice and the importance of community voice to the table. So I'm very excited to welcome her. As the mayor said, all of it. In addition, if I may, one of the exciting things just before Eric's time is over is the opening of the Grove, the new Grove redevelopment, which will officially have a grand opening on September 24th. And residents will be able
Thank you. Thank you. Supported the road financially in a very good way. Project for the entire community. Glad to see it. Comments on 8.4? See this information. 8.5, update on federal provincial communication activities. Moved by Councilor Jacob, second by Councilor Bloom. Questions, comments? See this information. Carried. Thank you. Motions. There's no movers or seconders for motions. It was not. So I need a mover and seconder to receive. Carried. Thank you. On to new business. 11.1 speed concerns on highway road. Moved by Deputy Mayor Evans. Advise council that spoke directly with to this letter. Advise you of what does the township is doing in hopes of reducing speed limits. They're speeding in the areas all over the township. County has recently placed speed monitoring signs in and I've been advised that this has had a substantial effect on speeding in that area. I don't think it's the big answer to it. It's a part of signing. But anyway, just to let everybody know that the site is actively pursuing solutions to the speeding and it's a problem in all county council, other mayors and leagues, and everyone's experiencing the same problem. I also had quite a lengthy discussion with the staff sergeant Stephen Bolsa, and I was happy to see this area in large numbers. And also, we're actively catching a few of the speakers. Two in particular are kind of right for so, just a lot of with the PR out there, whenever possible, trying to make as many those people speaking push forward with obtaining a photo radar system for the township of McNabb site, and I have posted that they can be added to our 2022 budget. Questions, comments? All in favor of receiving this information? Carried, thank you. To bylaws, 13.1, 54, bylaw to appoint auditor, mover and seconder, Council David wants to approve. Questions, comments? All in favor of the recommendation? Carried, thank you. 55 fees and charges, mover and seconder, Council David, Deputy Mayor Anderson. For increases deposits for second agreements. Questions? Everything the council, everything is going on. So, all in favor of the recommendation? Carried, thank you. 13.3 bylaw 2021-56 site plan agreement with Blocknet and Shane. Moved and seconded, Councilor Rowe, Deputy Mayor Johnson. Questions or comments? Recommendation. 13.4, the addition bylaw 2021-57 site plan agreement. For 118 Jackson Lane, moving second. Questions, comments?
Just an obvious question and a comment, but just for the sake of asking, I assume that all the concerns that were brought forward were either dealt with or will have been since removed from being a concern. And thank you very much to staff for the patience in seeing this through, as well as Mr. McNabb. I know it wasn't an easy process, so kudos to all involved for finally getting it done.
Okay. Anyone else? Favor the recommendation? Carried, thank you. To public questions from members of the public. There were any questions?
Nobody with their hand up.
Just give it a few seconds to see. Still none? Okay, page 16, the notice of council meeting dates is there for your information. We have mover and seconder for the confirmatory bylaws. All in favor? Carried, thank you very much.
Oh, you put your hand up. Did you have a question?
No,